communities, but we've never forgotten that we're part of a larger system in Kentucky, and we support that region very strongly.
What's one positive thing you can say about the history and the future of Morehead State University?
Well, I think our history is just replete with examples of people that have a can-do attitude, people that have grown up in whatever circumstances that were handed to them, but they've demonstrated that they are capable of achieving anything anybody else can do. What most people want and need is a hand up, not a hand out. And I've met hundreds of folks from our region that I'm really proud of because they accepted a hand up and have gone on to do marvelous things in their lives for their communities and have given back to Morehead State University. So, that's one thing I think that really shines about our community, and that is what we've done to help educate people and bring them along.
Now, you are in your last year.
Yes.
Reflecting back officially now, you haven't, they did this before, you did not.
Right.
What would you like to say that maybe the next president, or even the president after that, could see that you could give them advice or talk about your policy?
Yeah, what I would hope is that we would attract a person to this job that has a heart for Appalachian people. The thing that I brought to this that was kind of special, I mean, I grew up in Massachusetts. I didn't grow up in Appalachia. But I was fortunate to have spent 17 years at East Tennessee State and came to know the region and the people and love them in the region strongly. I hope the next president has that. It's not just a job. There are jobs. This is not a job. This is a career opportunity for somebody to come, understand the people and the place, the hopes and aspirations, the dreams, and to help capture that in the imagination of our faculty and staff, and encourage and enlist area leaders, regional leaders to join with us to continue to provide the best quality education that we can. Education's changing. The landscape of higher education's changing. So we need a leader that understands all that, the changing dynamics of higher education, the funding changes in higher education, the performance requirements that are coming to us from the state and the federal level. All that's there and it's important. But fundamentally, you want to have a person, in my view, that really does understand the challenges, the hopes, and the opportunities of the people we serve. Because that kind of a person can deal with all this other important stuff. But if you don't have that as a cornerstone, it'll be difficult, I think, for a person to be successful.
Yeah, sort of reflecting on your years here, what has it meant for you to be the president?
I've thought a good bit about that, and Sue, my wife, and I have talked a lot about that. It's an amazing thing, really. My mother, who came to live with us in, I guess it would have been in 2006 or 7, and she actually died here in the home in February of 2009. As I said earlier, she was a very, very significant influence in my life because she understood the importance of education. She wasn't able to get it early on. She wanted it so badly. She was so smart. So she was a great believer. Well, sitting up on the couch upstairs in the room where she stayed one day, it's not too long before she died, we sat together and we had this tender little moment, and it was really funny. She looked over at me and she smiled and she said, "Wayne, isn't it amazing that you're the president of a university?" And it was a tender moment because she knew what my attitudes and behaviors and all it was as a young kid. I wasn't interested in any of this stuff. And it was like, come on, Wayne, go to school, pay attention, study. And it was her saying in her very gentle way, "Look how far you've come." And so for me, this is the pinnacle of my career. There's nothing I could go on to that I would be more proud of than the work I've been able to do here with the people that I've had this great opportunity to work with. Morehead State University is a wonderful place. It's a place of opportunity. And we have a great team here of administrators, of faculty, and staff that care, and we provide quality education. I'll always be proud of this place, and I intend to continue to contribute however I can, in whatever ways I can, because it's that important.
In the first interview we did, you gave us some great sound bites about Phoebe and Frank Button and kind of bookending your interview if you will, is this university now out of a pretty rugged landscape.
Right.
Something you could say about Beebe and Frank and kind of how they made all this happen.
Yeah, I think when you look back at the history and you understand the daunting task that they had, the Martin Tolliver War, which was the war here in Rowan County, that went on for, I don't remember, 4 or 5 years, and dozens of people were killed. This was a lawless place. It was a dangerous place. And they came here because the Christian church sent them here. So they came because they were religiously oriented. They wanted to bring education and I'm sure some religious understanding to the people here. But they came with a great sense of commitment. And through Dr. Button's entire career, the longest serving president in the history of this university, it wasn't a university at the time, obviously, but if you just consider the scope of his time here from '87 until he left the position, he made a huge contribution because he established relationships with people. He was able to hire faculty. He was able to shape the character of the place, to remind people how important it was to serve others. He was a servant leader. There were some things about his leadership that weren't very strong, and Dr. Flatt in his book talks about some of those, and the history of the politics of the place has some of that in it, but it doesn't matter at this point. What they set about establishing here was a place in the mountains of eastern Kentucky that was a safe and welcoming place for folks to send their children to come here to get an opportunity to learn and grow and go on to transform their lives, the lives of their families, and the lives of the people in the region and the community. There's nothing that advances a person more in life than education. It is the most important thing we can do. And my hope is that Sue and I have contributed to that. And by the time I leave, nearly 13 years, we've tried to build on that idea. And it's difficult because, as I said earlier, higher ed's changing. There's a lot going on. But the fundamental ideas are still hugely important. Think also about this place, Rowan County. So you had Frank and Phoebe Button working here to build this place. At the same time, you had Cora Wilson Stewart, who founded the Moonlight School. And that was a movement that was designed to bring adults literacy. The Buttons were really looking at younger people, trying to get them, coming out of the equivalent of high school, I suppose, to work with them. But Cora Wilson Stewart, her whole deal was there are adults that are yearning to learn, and they have no way to go. There are no schools for them. The Moonlight School got its name because on moonlit nights, people walked the pathways over the tops of our ridges and in the hollers to go to meeting places where teachers would meet them and help them learn the fundamentals of education. And when you put that together with what the work of the Buttons accomplished and those that have come after, it's a powerful reminder of the value of this place and the importance of the light to the mountains, which Morehead State University continues to be.
What's some lasting comments you would like to add? Something we didn't talk about the first time, or anything you would like to add?
I think that Morehead State University has tremendous potential going into the future. We have to reimagine ourselves in some ways, just like every institution of higher education has to do. We've got to focus carefully on a quality core education. It's the liberal arts core. What is it every student needs in an education? And make sure that's part of what we do. Not a cafeteria plan where people get to choose from among hundreds of options, but a core set of attitudes, knowledge, skills, dispositions that an educated person has to have. And then how do you translate those into the disciplines? So that if a student wants to be in business or in social science or humanities, there's a way to translate those core skills into those areas that provides them with what's necessary to be lifelong learners. The landscape is changing. There's a big push today for more vocational education. Years ago when I started, vocational education was prominent in our high schools and even in some of our colleges, like at Morehead State. We prepared industrial arts teachers, home economics teachers. That was all part of the curriculum here. And through time, that morphed into other things, and some of it went away. There's a big call today to educate more people to be ready to go into the workforce so our manufacturers have the skill sets they need. Well, that is important. But we also have to be sure that we don't slip in the core of our business. And the core of our business is that liberally educated student, well prepared to go into the disciplines, because we know this. The average student today is going to change careers 5 or 6 times in the course of their lifetime. 5 or 6 times career changes, not job changes. So you might have somebody that starts out in nursing and winds up in accounting, or someone that starts out in traditional music and winds up in philosophy. I mean, I don't know what all the pathways are. So we have to, our focus has to be more clearly how to prepare people for a world that's changing very rapidly. But the ability to learn and the ability to process information, to make critical decisions is increasingly more important in a complex world. Morehead State University is doing that now, and we're going to have to do more of it going into the future.
Now, you gave us a great line last time that we ended the project with. I believe you said, Phoebe and Frank with a light to the mountains. Could you sort of reiterate that line so we can maybe match it back up, and that could be our pretty much our ending?
I'm trying to remember, you know, exactly what I said.
Henry and I both have seen it so many times. What was it exactly? You said something, Phoebe and Frank Button aspire to bring the light to the mountains. And sort of talking about the transition into the modern day.
I can't remember exactly. I remember when you first said it, I had like a...
Yeah, it...
Warmed your heart, huh?
Well, it was a great ending point.
Right.
It was like, it was obvious that that was a...
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, part of it for me is here we're sitting in this house. I mean, think about it. This house was designed when Frank Button was the president of Morehead State University. He was no longer the president when this house was open. So he started the construction, but he was no longer the president when it was open. So here we sit today, you know, 120 years later, I suppose, talking about the vision that Frank Button and his mother Phoebe had for this place. That a university, that an educational institution could become a college and a university and contribute so powerfully to the region and the state. Their notion was this place could be a light unto the mountains of eastern Kentucky. It has been, it is, and it will continue to be, because that's the heart of what we do.
Perfect. All right.
Tanner, did you get goosebumps?
That was nice. That made it even better.
Is there anything we haven't asked you would like to add, or?
I don't know specifically. I guess, we talked about just the point of pride. I mean, for me, this has been it's the pinnacle of a career that, such a pleasure to serve here. It's not been about me, it's been about us. That's really what it's about. It's about us. And it's being a president's not an easy job. Our faculty are among the smartest people there are, and they have lots of ideas about things, which I really appreciate. Sometimes it's challenging to manage all that, and we've had very difficult financial times in my time here. These 12 years have been really challenging. We've had budget cuts every biennial budget. From the enacted budget to the appropriated budget to the enacted budget, we've had cuts. So we've seen the shift onto the backs of students with increased tuition, and I don't know where the end of that is going. I don't see in Kentucky right now a willingness to reinvest in a significant way in higher ed. I hope that will change. It has to change. Having said that, we still have to be partners with the Commonwealth. I mean, we're a state-supported institution. They're our biggest partner. And we've got to figure out how best to work together towards common goals. And I think smart people can figure all that out, and we will figure it out. That's a great challenge, though. And everybody's facing that in higher ed. It's not just Morehead State. It's not just Kentucky. It's not just this region. It's everywhere. It's a national phenomenon. So we just have to work on it. You probably got some old and new you can blend together.
Yeah,